Ooh. Good lord. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, released in 2013, setting a new standard on the pirate action-adventure. Those looking to capitalize were sure to follow, with none more memorable than Reality Pump Studios releasing a game that would instead set a record for just how busted and unintentionally hilarious the genre can get. I no longer have words for this. Raven's Cry, releasing in 2015, was truly a marvel of a game. Being so broken and jank-infested, it's hard to look away, not knowing what insanity might play out next.
Fartleberry.
I'm sorry, Fartleberry?
So today we set sail into one of the most notorious and unintentionally funny experiences in gaming history. This is Raven's Cry. And speaking of Fartleberry, you can Fartleberry in the faces of your enemies in this video's sponsor, DC Dark Legion, the new official DC game, now available for iOS, Google Play and PC via their official website, with the game featuring the return of Roger Craig Smith, reprising his role from Batman Arkham Origins to voice Batman and the Batman Who Laughs. Save Gotham City from the dark multiverse in a story adapted from Scott Snyder's Dark Knight's Metal series, a massive roster of original DC superheroes, such as Batman, Superman, Aquaman and Joker, all with fantastic high-quality visuals and ultimate moves will be included at launch, with more than 200 DC characters to be featured in the game as the game progresses, and almost all champions released at launch can be unlocked without spending a dime. With its clear, intuitive UI, earning rewards even while idle, DC Dark Legion is perfect to pick up and play anytime, anywhere. Looking to get back at your neighbor who's always moving your bins? Well, not only can you fight alongside others, but you can also engage in PvP with players around the world. Use my gift code DCDL999, which just rolls off the tongue, in the description to get plenty of resources, and 3 free hero pulls via 3 World Anvil fragments. And a huge thank you for DC Dark Legion for sponsoring this video. Our journey begins meeting our protagonist, Christopher Raven, whose hobbies include mime and chewing on his own bottom jaw. We join him on his ship as his first mate Marcus enters to inform him they have found their next target.
We got him.
With Chris reacting with a face that makes me feel like someone may be overdue a trip to the poop deck. Taking the helm, Chris and his crew close in and demolish the Spanish galleon, next setting sail for San Juan to discuss their next move.
I don't like this, Chris. This Torado asshole isn't going to play us straight.
I'm sorry, what? We learn that Chris and his crew have just completed a job, taking out a Spanish vessel under the order of another Spanish officer named Dorado.
You know I don't trust anyone, but there's no way I'm going to let this slime bag slip away without paying me.
A dicey job indeed, and one that leads Chris to falling into a trap when the man who ordered the job sets his dogs on him to cover his tracks.
Christopher Raven, you stand accused of murdering an officer of the Spanish Navy. The penalty for your crime is death.
You're gonna regret this, Dorado.
Kill him!
But never fear, because at least we have our trusty first mate to help fight back. Now with the whole town alerted and after his blood, Chris escapes through the window to see his ship up in flames, dashing through the streets dodging musket fire and swords. He spots his opportunity to swiftly grab another vessel, while perfectly showcasing this game's ability to attempt something epic just to fall flat on its face. Well then. Commandeering a stolen vessel from a local drunk, the remnants of Chris's crew head to St. Lucia, and on the way Marcus reveals that Dorado, the man who just attempted to kill him, is heading to Bridgetown next.
Are you heading to Bridgetown?
To Port Royal whores give you the burning drip. This Dorado, I won't let him off my hook. But I'll give you a ride to Barbados. Least I could do for you saving my neck.
Heading to the tavern to formulate a plan, Chris gets a reminder of the colorful inhabitants of St. Lucia.
Sorry, I didn't mean to spill it on your shoes.
Sure, I understand you little. Let me show you how much I understand.
Let's see it. Hello, sir. Yes, sir. I'm trying to see. Oh, sir, sir. Absolutely formidable.
Grabbing some beers in the tavern, the pair bump into an old acquaintance, Donovan.
who informs us of a more permanent solution to getting themselves a replacement for their recently destroyed ship, with Donovan explaining that his captain, Terrell, is a bit of a bastard and could do with someone removing him as captain of his ship due to his habit of, and no, I didn't make this up, peeing on all of his crew.
Take a walk down by the docks and see for yourself. He's the guy pissing all over his sailors.
Finding the pissy Pratt just outside, Chris challenges him for the captaincy of his ship, with the duel going about as well as you would expect, with Chris turning Terrell into a piece of garden furniture. Now back in command of his ship, Chris and his crew come across an ominous sight indeed, out in the open water, a seemingly unmanned vessel, littered with corpses floating around it. Boarding the ship, the horrors only continue, as Chris and Marcus find the crew butchered, and to Chris at least, reminding him of a painful memory indeed, one of his family meeting the same fate when Captain Neville and his gang descended upon their home when he was only a boy, taking his hand along with his family's lives.
You look like you've seen the devil himself.
I have.
Looking a little further on the ship, his suspicions are confirmed. Seeing a marking on one of the bodies, the gang that murdered his family are back.
Neville and his men have been shark food for years.
What's wrong with you, man? You saw my father's body when you carried it from that bloody beach, didn't you? You saw the mark they carved into him?
The men who murdered your family are gone. If you don't stop this, you'll end up chasing whispers of pirates across the Caribbean like that madman Santorio.
You're absolutely right, Marcus. If anyone knows anything about this, it'd be Santorio.
Chris's mission to track down Captain Neville and the others that murdered his family starts with a visit to Bridgetown, to drop in on a brothel to ask its owner and a good friend about any clues on where he could find pirate hunter Santorio, a man that would surely know any clues on where he might be able to find Neville and his men, now they have returned. Bridgetown is a pleasant sight to see, with its bustling streets and performers, including a large cheering crowd, gathered to enjoy the wonders of a man who has mastered the art of changing direction. Chris makes it to the brothel to inquire about the whereabouts of Santorio.
Since your pants are still buckled, I assume you have a different reason for being here today?
What do you know about Santorio?
Chris is tipped off to one of the girls knowing something about where he might be able to find him. But before finding out, Chris must separate the girl from her current customer.
Hey, don't you turn your back to me, boyo!
Calm down, friend. I just need her for a minute. She'll be back on your lap in no time. Have a drink on me.
Thoroughly getting the point, the man pipes down, and Chris is able to find out that Santorio spoke of a place called the Sargasso Strait, ominously speaking of having to navigate through the teeth to reach his secret settling place.
Good luck getting through the teeth, you.
Yeah?
Well, if anyone is going to be able to get through the teeth, then I'd wager on it being this guy. Maria, the brothel owner, is understandably concerned with Chris's antics.
Jesus, Christopher.
Ah, well, considering Chris has lost his voice, I'll have to fill in.
That guy had it coming to him. Called me Crack Sparrow. Oh, and if you're enjoying this, make sure you subscribe to the channel for free to stay up to date with the videos. This British idiot is trying to hit 200k this year, and you can catch ad-free and uncensored versions of these videos on his Patreon. Linked in the description. There, you done making me say dumb shit.
Yes, thank you.
Arr, me teeth. I've got a real dental problem. It's like a McDonald's ball pit in there.
Borrowing a flag from the wife of one of Santorio's former associates, we sail through the teeth to drop anchor at Santorio's island settlement and get a chance to chat with the notorious pirate hunter himself, who agrees that Captain Neville's return is indeed a troublesome development, with Santorio tasking Chris and his crew with finding out what has happened to an informant of his, a task to perform before Santorio can put any trust into our molar-chomping pirate captain. While sailing to St. George to find this informant, we get a reminder of the dangers lurking out in the open ocean, being attacked by a galleon mid-voyage, with Chris and his crew putting up a brave fight, despite how obnoxious his crew seem to be.
Can you load any slower?
Aye, sir. Loading now.
Now arriving at St. George, Chris takes in some of the sights, such as the many ancestors of David Blaine, and the main square, where all gather to dance around like a prat, no matter how otherwise intimidating they may seem.
La 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 la.
Whoa. While of course not forgetting to visit the local shipwright to look for upgrades and of course repair our ship.
Guess you need your boat repaired?
I'm sorry, what? While in the area, Chris notices the French higher-ups stationed at this port and attempts to talk to one of the local settlers to try and get some papers to allow him an audience with this French governor, with this man agreeing, providing Chris deals with a trio of dangerous men causing problems for him in the port. Setting to task, Chris comes across quite the mess, with trails of blood and torn clothing, leading all the way to the men the settler spoke of. And in a coincidental but unfortunate development, it turns out that the latest victim of these three is none other than the informant Santorio sent us to check up on.
Please, don't kill me.
Who, after dispatching, we find a letter on the informant's body, revealing that the French plan to strike Santorio's island. Information that is only confirmed after overhearing a couple of local drunks getting another sample of this game's baffling voiceover.
Haven't you heard?
Can't say I have. Well, now I have.
Right. Well, if I was a captain, I would stay as docked until the bastard goes somewhere else.
Absolute fucking gibberish.
With the report to provide to Santorio, and the sun going down, Chris takes the opportunity to rub shoulders with the nightly inhabitants of St. George, stopping by a tavern that I'm assuming doubles up as a library, and introducing himself to some of the locals about at night, earning some coin from a bloke named Shaggy, and taking out a rather pissed off looking Wayne Rooney, trying to stop him from selling his herbal wares, along with of course getting access to the French governor's grounds littered with guards, with some apparently having matching litter boxes.
Hold on, wait. What? There's no way. What?
Getting an introduction to the French governor.
Hello?
Hello.
Chris heads back to the ship, while of course pissing off some of the guards and having to scurry back under fire.
Oh God. What the hell is even that?
Heading back to Santorio's island, we warn him of the imminent attack, and he asks us to assist in protecting his island. In good time too, as the French begin attacking the island, alarmingly as well as the game's frame rate, leading the cannon's firing teams to victory on the beach, sinking the incoming ships. Chris heads down to the beach itself to battle back the foot soldiers. A good thing too, as Santorio is unfortunately previously engaged running into a wooden post. Emerging victorious, Santorio honors the agreement, revealing that a pirate that used to be part of Neville's crew named Weedy has settled down in a local pirate hideout, a man we must track down to get closer to Neville, and one that might even be one of those that had a hand in his family's murder. On the way out, Chris stops off for a spot of trading, a nice way of generating some funds for rum and the like for his crew, while of course getting this island's dose of genuinely head-scratching conversation.
Fartleberry.
Setting sail once more, and battling through the hordes of ships taking aim at pirates, Chris can breathe a sigh of relief, touching down on the pirate hideout, marching up the hill and into the cave to track down this Weedy, beginning his inquiry with the guards at the cave entrance, before being rudely interrupted.
Shit, here comes Biff.
What?
Nothing to it. We'll put in a good word for you.
Oh, here comes Biff, look. Here he comes, look. Anytime now.
What are you looking at, butthead?
Biff, of course, acts like a tit until Chris has no choice but to sit him down, with him then striding proudly into the pirate hideout to begin his search for Weedy. A search that doesn't take long, finding him harassing a woman not a stone's throw away from the tavern.
Asshole!
Don't you ever mess with Weedy, you little
Finally face to face with one of the men responsible for his family's fate, Chris has a conversation with his shoes for a while, before mustering up the courage to face the man, who is having none of his intimidation, forcing Chris to pull out some of his most intimidating facial expressions.
Well now, who the hell are you trying to impress? One of these cruiser dandies prowling around here? You trying to prove you're some kind of hard case?
Tricking Weedy with flattery and pretending he is looking to join his crew loosens up Weedy's tongue, while also leading to more horrific flashbacks for Chris and his family's fate.
You're living some old glories, Weedy.
I'm sorry, what? Shifting to an all-out interrogation, And now apparently in a phone booth, Chris reveals to Weedy his true identity.
Who are you?
I'm just remembering some old times of my own, Weedy. These days I go by Raven, but my family name is Callahan. You remember us? Family of 4? I suppose it doesn't matter. We Callahans are a tenacious bunch.
I'm sorry.
We Callahans...
What? Ah, yes, I remember. You got the Colombians, the Venezuelans, and the Cagnan, just north of the... Weedy doesn't know the location of Neville, or even where his right-hand man Kensington is. But what he does know is where we can find another more senior member of his former crew, a man named Brady, located in Santa Muerte. With Weedy using up all his usefulness, Chris tends to the garden. With their next destination confirmed, Chris and his crew head to Santa Muerte in search for Brady, and on arrival uncovering yet another morbid sight, finding the island village burnt to the ground, and the villagers sacked through, with only one remaining voice crying out in terror, with this belonging to a nun, of all people, who Chris saves from the attacking tribe and begins grilling for information on Brady, in an interaction that entirely convinces me that the one responsible for putting together these conversations was drunk off their arse, with angles such as the back of Chris's hat and his right shoulder used during the discussion.
They took 2 of the monks as well. We have to help them.
Charlotte the nun, however, does reveal that Brady is still alive and was snatched away by the attacking tribe and taken deeper into the jungle. Chris orders his men to take Charlotte to safety and heads into the jungle to track the man down, stealthily creeping through the treacherous swamp and taking out any stragglers, while trying desperately not to interrupt the rest of the tribe's cardio session. Making their way deeper into the jungle, Chris and his crew spot a large group up ahead that look to be holding prisoners. They will need to pull out all the stops if they hope to get access to them. So Donovan immediately downs 224,000 espressos and puts on his David Bowie costume in preparation.
How far is it?
Not far.
As the whole crew battle their way to the hostages, Chris quickly sniffs out Brady and presses him for answers.
Listen, Brady. You help me, you have a chance. You with me, and you're cannibal food. So let's try this again. Where is Neville's camp?
Neville's camp. Neville's camp. Neville's camp. Neville's camp.
Controlling his neck for a moment, Chris puts more pressure on Brady for information on Neville, but is cut off when Brady is struck down by poisoned darts, a state that not a few feet later, Chris himself also finds himself in. Now suffering the effects of the poison coursing through his veins, Chris wakes up delirious on his ship, being tended to by Charlotte, with Chris stereotypically claiming that he's fine, when really, he's far from it.
Your face.
What?
But it seems Chris is in luck, as it happens, the nun has seen this poison before, and knows of a shaman residing on Aves Island, who will know what Chris needs to get the antidote to the poison. Heading straight there, the group take their first steps onto the island, with Charlotte warning that only a few of them should approach the tribe, so to not come across hostile.
And if you don't get this doctor to give me what I need, he'll be staying here permanently. Try anything stupid, and I'll kill you myself.
You're an extremely unpleasant man. Why do you think the worst of everyone?
Because I'm realistic.
Reaching the village and speaking to the elder, he is apprehensive to assist our hero, on the account of him being such a massive bellend. But after seeing the mysterious raven staring him down, agrees to help, despite the distraction of someone nearby attempting to break the baptism world record during the conversation.
And come instead with a black violence in your heart. I have no cures for a man such as you.
Walking with the shaman, he stops to blow some Cheeto dust in Chris's face, sending him into delirium, where the spirits of the island will test him. Wandering through the dream landscape that's about 6 pixels away from a lawsuit from Remedy Games, Chris is forced to face some of his previous transgressions and horrific memories, battling back the trauma he has both experienced and created, led by specters of his friends and foes.
We're almost there. Just head upstairs.
Traversing the dreamscape, Chris ultimately is attacked by a great beast that ends up being a lizard on his chest, as he finds himself now back in the real world. He is then informed by the shaman he needs to challenge the trials of the temple here on Aves Island. With time ticking away due to the poison in his veins, Chris barrels straight to it, expertly navigating the traps and making his way through the jumping puzzles. As we all know, ancient Aztec temples were all constructed using the age-old scrolls of Crash Bandicoot, making it through the trials and eating a special leaf held within to cure the poison. Crash Bandicoot swings back once again, realizing in his now cured state that the shaman's head is really that big, making me wonder if the person who designed all of this did so after waking up from a drunken night reliving some PlayStation classics. Now back in rude health, Chris catches up with Charlotte on the incredibly echoey beach, who reveals that Brady actually visited her monastery recently and let slip the location of Kensington, Neville's right-hand man.
Then it was the Lord's doing that he had managed to confess his sins just in time. Our abbot heard his confession just weeks ago. Would you believe the man cursed and swore even during the sacrament? No, the words I heard.
While setting sail from Bridgetown to drop off Charlotte the nun, all of this action has caught up with her getting some Cheeto dust on her wimple, so throws on some of Chris's clothes.
I think it would be best if you took me somewhere where I can seek help from.
Good lord. Enjoying a drink, things get a little hot and sweaty, despite Chris losing his voice once again.
I just don't want to be in the way.
With Charlotte showing her love for the Lord by skull and boning a pirate. Dropping off Charlotte, Chris takes the opportunity to wander around Bridgetown in search of a new ship, once again getting lucky, finding one of the town's locals selling a galleon, which Chris is excited to take off his hands. At least I can only assume, judging by the look of his right ear. Glorious new boat now obtained, the crew touch down at Redona in search of Kensington, wandering right up to a grand house in one of the island's plantations. Speaking with Ray just outside, he agrees to let us in and introduce us to Kensington.
Sir? This one here, he said, come over,
You know what? At this point, I don't know what I expected. Speaking with the head of the house, he, after some playing along, reveals that he isn't actually Kensington, but a man called Avery. Someone who, although isn't the man we seek, could actually be the key to getting to him after all. With Avery being an aristocrat looking to defame Kensington, who has in recent years been pulling the spotlight away from him, and looks to take him down to regain the eye of the land's patriarchs. Avery is not only that, but also my worst nightmare, with me being, as some of you may know, incredibly grossed out by loud mouth sounds. So Avery for me quickly becoming pure torture, attempting to just make it through the insanely bad voiceover.
That is also why I can spot deception. I knew you were no well-wisher when you thought I was Kensington. I believe you're
During the first round of Slivery bombardment, Chris is tasked with blackmailing a man called Ch2, the governor's personal secretary, into turning against Kensington. But Chris will need some dirt on him to do so a plan is hatched to catch Ch2 during a visit to a brothel and expose his raunchy side to all his toff prancing around the garden with a handkerchief and a wig on colleagues, with Ch2 preferring the company of male companions, as Avery explains while his voice actor opens his sandwiches in the background.
There are more details which I will spare you, but they all add up to one inescapable conclusion. Mr. Ch2 seems to prefer men to women.
With the plan to blackmail Ch2 underway, Chris of course visits his old friend at the brothel to set the trap, while stopping off to let off some steam and wipe the spittle off of his face. Speaking to his friend at the brothel, and after some convincing she agrees on the plan, but only if we can provide the entertainment ourselves.
I can think of a quick way.
No, not you
Careful,
too!
Chris.
I
Some of
can't
these
believe
boys
you've done
really
this.
like
Finding some suitable entertainment for Ch2 does not take long, coming across a willing fellow currently discussing his services with another of the locals, who Chris scares away with his impeccable volleyball skills.
Check this out.
Bringing the chap to the brothel, the girls set to work dressing him up and getting him prepared for Ch2, while I'm sure, given the time period, leaving some of the brothel's regulars a little confused.
Mistaken for a brothel, honest mistake.
With the trap set, Ch2 wanders in and enjoys some alone time with Chris's plant, With him waiting patiently outside, he confronts the man, warning him that he will tell all his croquet-enjoying buddies all about his raunchy side, leading to Touche calling his attack dog.
What? You? How? How dare you accuse me of such things? Roger, remove this ruffian from my sight.
I'm not sure about you, but I don't think Roger is really up to this.
Oh, God!
Thoroughly flustered, Touche agrees to turn on Kensington, while talking about Avery's desperation to impress the land's patriarchs, no matter what it takes. Something we can use to our advantage, at least for now, when getting to Kensington. Returning to Avery.
Their existence.
The next step in taking down Kensington is to poison some of his supplies, due to be shipped to London, destroying trust in his reputation. A task that ends up being far less time-consuming, particularly due to the caliber of Kensington's guards. Progressing with their plans to ruin Kensington, Chris takes a trip and puts a permanent end to one of Kensington's creditors, as well as destroying more of the man's stock and supplies out in the open water, making sure to take some time out to pick up some other ship upgrades, and buying a huge Mano war vessel, as well as putting some faith into the church, only to get mugged by the Reverend.
I don't feel right.
With all, of course, reporting back to Avery, so their sinister plot can continue.
He has less and less to be happy about with each passing day, in any case.
At this point, the sea. We might as well sail back on the riding tides of this bloke's saliva.
Before getting stuck in with more plans to topple Kensington, Chris turns his attention to more improvements in the form of recruiting some more experienced crew, while of course taking care of his current members.
I just got word that my wife's sick. I guess it's real bad. If we've got the time, I'd like to go see her in St. George's.
Well, yes, there's no problem. Yes, I recently saw your wife. She's a little damp. I'm sorry.
Tailing this man after seeing him dash off after arriving into port, he catches him planning to interrupt a wedding between his estranged wife and another man, with Chris getting forced into a whole lot of bother when taking some revenge.
Jeanette! Men, to arms!
Good lord. Far more progress is made shifting through the bars and taverns when looking for some experienced shipmates, coming across a highly skilled navigator willing to join for the right coin.
That's it. Now I remember. It is piss.
Huh?
That cat they have over here, he has his own piss pot. Always seen him taking a piss there, and this was that pot. Must have landed on your table by mistake. Imagine that.
Oh, God.
Just keeps drinking it. Getting another tip, Chris heads back to Santorio's island after hearing that there's an expert gunman imprisoned there, with the mind to bust him out and take him for his crew. Finding the man, the tip-off was spot on, with him being locked up.
The jailer leaves the keys hanging over his desk. I've seen him. Maybe you could find a way to get him? Come on, help a fellow brother of the coast.
Something that Chris will have to adopt all of his cunning to overcome. It's here, however, that the Mistress of the Sea farts in Chris's kettle, as when attempting to return to his ship he finds that he cannot, simply due to Raven's Cry, and spends an embarrassing amount of time trying to simply get back on board, leading to being teleported to another dimension and having to give up on the whole idea and leave the poor bloke to rot in his cell. Returning to Avery, he asks Chris to steal some uniforms that Kensington has provided to his men, while of course tending to the newly opened branch of SeaWorld in his mouth.
But I have other swords. The uniforms will come in quite...
This proves to be exceptionally easy when facing off against such impotent foes, including one bloke that has seemingly accidentally superglued his arse to his chair. Avery's final task is to strike directly at Kensington's family, to creep into his family home and take out some of his most beloved. A devious action indeed. Carrying out the incredibly hypocritical and despicable act, the time is now to move in on Kensington. But Chris will not be able to do this alone, with Kensington having such a well-defended estate, so turns to some of the locals, calling themselves the Maroons, who being formerly slaves of Kensington's, have a horse in this race too, being able to attack his estate and free all those that remain under his tyranny. Gathering the men, the whole group attack the estate, with the gang so pumped that they forget how bridges work for a moment, instead choosing to swim across the river while being literally right next to it.
Battling through the estate, the two sides clash, with Kensington's forces being a formidable bunch indeed, leading to Chris's forces and the Maroons needing to fuse together to create a walking abomination to crush all the remaining guards. In victory, Chris is met by Avery's potato, Ray, who leads him back to his master, before resuming his deep conversation with a set of candles, with Chris receiving quite the congratulations indeed.
But you've been so useful to us, I've decided to save you some legwork, pirate. Forward to our new partnership, Mr. Neville.
Of course you do.
In a shocking twist that was totally not incredibly obvious, Avery betrays Chris, leading to him being captured and now facing down Neville himself from behind bars. It seems Neville and Avery joined forces, with Neville having his own reasons for wanting his former associate Kensington out of the picture.
Kensington thought himself quite indestructible since his political career began to blossom. I'm afraid he'd forgotten who helped him gain his little slice of power.
So you have him destroyed.
Leaving Chris in his cell instead of simply killing him, Chris quickly begins to hatch a plan to escape, assisted massively when Marcus shows up to help him out, while cosplaying as a stone pillar.
Marcus? How did you...
Now once again a free man, Chris quickly pulls together all the recruits he can find, from the crew, the Maroons, and even a nearby box.
I can't sail a ship without a crew, can I?
Barreling straight towards Avery's estate for some sweet revenge, but first having to sit down his lapdog, the walking potato, Ray, who after an epic final showdown speech is no match for our pirate captain, who sets the place ablaze, getting to witness the final moments of Avery.
Don't let me die like this. Chris! Christopher!
Here. Do it yourself, Patriarch. There's enough gunpowder for one shot. But gunpowder by itself isn't enough.
No, wait!
There's that scream I was looking for.
Well, I wouldn't be so sure, buddy. This dude's got so much slobber he could probably put out this entire fire with a well-timed yawn. With Avery char-grilled, Chris finally sets his sights on Neville's right-hand man, Kensington, finding him alone at his home. The man attempting to bargain for his life by revealing Neville's location gets him nowhere, with Chris remembering all the pain and misery the man has caused him all those years ago.
My men have fled. Even my bodyguard got to! Got to!
Too bad, Kensington. I was gonna let you die with dignity, which is more than you afforded my family.
Escaping with his companion Marcus, Chris returns to Marcus's home in St. Lucia to settle on their next move, and for a chance for Marcus to get something off his chest.
I've tried to do this 100 times over the years, but it was never the right time. At least that's what I kept telling myself. I've always thought of you as my own son, Chris. I want you to know that I've always tried to protect you.
Marcus admits that when Neville and his men came to Chris and his family's home when he was a child, when he lost his arm, and when his family were cut down, he painfully admits that it was him that acted as the scout for Neville, and out of guilt returned after the bloodbath to raise Chris as his own.
And you never told me?
Sorry.
Sorry? You're sorry?
Christopher, I've tried to make up for what I've done. I've tried to raise you like my own son. Now, you know everything. There are no more secrets. I see what's in your eyes, Christopher. And I accept it.
Fuming with rage, Chris stares down the man he considered his adopted father, contemplating his fate, while battling back the urge to simply pull the trigger. The tension building and building. Tension that, of course, always with Raven Cry is immediately destroyed by another healthy dose of jank. With the pair continuing their discussion in total silence, with Chris choosing to spare Marcus while being heckled by a local chicken.
But you still fed us, Tom.
I know, Christopher. Every time I look at you, I think about what I've done. I hope someday you can forgive me, Chris.
Don't count on it.
With the location of the man obtained from Kensington, only one task remains: to track down and put a stop to the man with the most blood on his hands, Captain Neville. Slicing through the waves and barreling down on Neville's vessel in the dead of night, Chris and his crew board Neville's vessel, fighting back his crew and carefully navigating the ship's black holes. Fighting down and fighting the hordes, Chris corners the man himself, just in time for a random bloke to teleport in and attempt to ruin the epic showdown, most likely sent from the future in an attempt to stop people from playing this game.
In your wake, even the hangman couldn't end you.
You should have killed me yourself back in that prison, Neville.
With the final battle beginning, with Chris cutting Neville to pieces so badly that he has no choice but to resort to the notorious art of levitation magic, floating a number of weapons around in an attempt to intimidate our pirate captain, and totally not due to the game shitting the bed once again. With Neville defeated, Chris finally gets his vengeance, with him taking a moment to remember back to his beloved family, accompanied by a singing of saving grace, in a performance that complements this entire experience perfectly.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
We're done here, boys.
And that was Raven's Cry, a game so broken and scuffed it's almost impossible to believe it without seeing it yourself. And a pirate adventure I will not be forgetting, for all the wrong reasons. If you enjoyed this video, then I'm sure you will love the whole playlist of similar adventures coming up in just a few moments. Huge thank you to those that gave me feedback on the post I put up recently about the videos getting a bit too cutscene heavy. And I'll be really keen to get your feedback on this one, being more of a return to the previous style. Reading through those replies was another reminder of just how lucky I am, and how fucking awesome you guys are. I'll spend an F-bomb on that. You're damned right I'll spend an F-bomb on that. Speaking of awesome people, massive shout out to the channel patrons. If you would like to get access to extra behind the scenes videos, as well as ad-free, uncensored and uncut versions of these longer deep dives, then check out the link in the description. Thanks again, subscribe for more, and I'll see all you legends in the next one.